Welcome to Legal and Lucrative, an interview series from CFO Accounting Services. In each episode, we sit down with attorneys to talk about the real side of running and growing a law practice, the people, the challenges, and the decisions that don't always show up on a balance sheet. We'll explore leadership, balance, and the financial realities of firm ownership, and share practical insights to help attorneys build practices that are both successful and sustainable.
Thanks for agreeing to meet with me. What inspired you to start your own practice, and what has surprised you most about running a firm?
So I don't know if you know this, but my wife and I also own 2 dental offices, and we're maybe buying 3 more. We're in conversations for 3 more, and then we signed a lease to do a new one from scratch. And what inspired me to start my own law firm? It was somewhat opportunistic. I've had my own book of business for many, many years now. I was at a firm that I really liked the managing partner. I didn't have equity, but were compensated enough that it didn't really matter one way or the other to me. And decision making was still part of the deal with him, so there was some autonomy. And then he sold to another guy that came in and started what's called an alternative business structure, which Arizona is one of the only places that does that. And the guy that came along with it started to treat me like I was an employee. And I was like, not your employee. I bring in 3 times the amount of business and I was a partner here. So, but my wife had just left the corporate dentistry and we had these 2 offices and she was pregnant with our 3rd kid. And, there was a lot going on. So as always in my life. So I wasn't running for the hills just yet. And that was all kind of in like January of 23. And then I got a call from my former boss, actually, Dave Shine, who I stayed in touch with for years, but had left the firm because I didn't like the partner and he parted ways with the partner. And he called me and said, I'm retiring. I want to practice concierge law. I don't want anything for the firm. I want my name off the door. I'll lease you guys the art for $1 a year. And I've got about $1 million of litigation book that you can just take and, we'll work out the details. When are you coming over? And I was like, well, my wife is due like next week. So give me some time. And so that's how that worked. So it was opportunistic and lucky, but I would have done it maybe not as easily, and I might have had more speed bumps. I got lucky. I got kind of the perfect fit opportunity for me and was able to come into something existing that I didn't have to build from scratch, which was nice.
Okay.
And then over. Yeah. So then you asked me what surprised me. What surprised me was how not stressful it was. People ask me a lot, isn't that more stressful now that you're in charge? And I'm like, no, it's actually the opposite. It's far less stressful.
I could see that with
Yeah.
the guy coming in. That would have caused a lot more.
Yeah. It's funny because in the other one, it's like I was kind of running that firm, right? And, at least was in a management structure, but then I also have these 2 dental offices that I've run. So it was like to have somebody come in and try to be my boss when I'm the boss was like, what? That's not how this works. And
No, thank you.
yeah. And so it's very naturally fitting for me to be in this type of a role. And I like it. And I read books about leadership and negotiation and drive, and that's just kind of what I do. So, and persuasion and stuff like that. So it is, yes, far less stressful. And that it didn't surprise me, but it was just something that, is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. So how do you balance both being an attorney and being, in your case, a multiple business owner, especially with the different, not only running your business, your law business, and I guess I'm not sure how much of a team you have there, but those dental practices?
Not well. Just kidding. How do I balance it? I work a lot, but I enjoy it. So it's not, it interests me, and it's not something that I don't enjoy doing. So I don't really think of it as work.
Yeah.
It's what I do. And frankly, when I'm not doing the stuff, I'm kind of like, what do I do now? So I've got 3 kids
understand.
and I spend time with the kids, but I also this is my purpose and what I like doing. So it's enjoyable from that aspect. So the balance question, I make sure that I take time to be healthy and exercise and make sure that I have time for some downtime, not so much, but enough that I'm recharging my battery. But I definitely come home at the end of the day done, right?
Mm.
Like I'm done.
Done.
It's a full day.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think for most people in my position, sometimes they do get out of balance and forget about self-care. And I think that's really the most important thing, is the self-care component is what keeps you going. And that's why I wake up at 5 and work out and take time on Friday afternoon sometimes to go do something by myself.
Hmm.
Yep.
Makes sense. And that resonates a lot with me. So when you think about growth, what's your main focus right now? Which for you, you sort of alluded back, maybe it's these new dental practices, but let you speak to that.
Well, it's both. I mean, we're almost done with a build out in my law office for 4 new offices, which is exciting.
Mm.
So I'm hoping to add a couple more attorneys, but there's a point where I don't want to grow much bigger than that in my law practice. I like it small and lean and mean and family centered and kind of small, quiet in a way, as far as like internally quiet.
Right.
As a firm. So growth, but measured and methodical. For the dental offices, our goal has been 10 and 10. So 10 offices in 10 years and
Mm.
perhaps exit. But if we're printing money, we probably won't exit. These new offices and opportunities just kind of fell into our laps because my wife and I started a residency program through NYU Langone for pediatrics out of the office that runs trauma call at Phoenix Children's Hospital, and we have 8 residents. And so she's just very dialed into the community, and we just both have lots of contacts like this. And so we end up with lots of opportunities like this. And so this particular one just kind of fell in our laps, which was exciting and kind of at the right time. The new office we would not have done but for these 3.
Mm.
So the new office at the same time actually seems less risky in some ways, because it's just like you can do it slowly and methodically. And these 3, we're biting off a lot potentially if the deal closes. But yeah, I mean, the idea with dental is definitely to grow and grow methodically and smart. The risk of these is that it's a little bit too much too soon, but I think we can handle it. And there's a couple things that I see really easy, low hanging fruit that we can fix and kind of get where we need to be. And that's God's work. It's we're helping kids. Like you can't have a better purpose than that, right?
Right. Right. So what's your biggest financial challenge as a firm owner?
For law, there aren't many. I mean, collections can be an issue. There's always an occasional client that gets too deep, and you got to be on top of that stuff. I have one in particular that, right now I'm like, ooh, it's getting a little nerve wracking. And I'm not a contingent lawyer, so collections can be an issue. I have so many not small, but I have so many clients that, losing one client here or there does not hurt my bottom line generally. Or one client that doesn't pay a couple grand here or there does not hurt my bottom line generally. I'm diversified enough in my client mix. But you spend 1 month on a case and that's a huge bill. And then if the client doesn't pay, that can be a big issue. And so that's really it from a financial level. Let me close my door real.
Sure.
Overall, we're very good at collections and we're very good at ensuring that we take advanced deposits and that we're not putting ourselves in credit risk positions. And we've got good people, and we're small enough and streamlined enough as a firm that financially this firm's just really easy. The dental offices are the opposite, where each patient is like $100 per visit. So it's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
And our people have to stay on top of collections and on top of making sure insurance pays. And then you have the second component, because we also do orthodontics. That's a very challenging kind of area, because orthodontics, for whatever reason, they are backwards and they do things by accrual.
Mm.
And it makes no sense. And the orthodontists all think that they're all kind of prima donnas, in my opinion. Don't quote me on that one, but they get paid way above what they should get paid. And they bring in a case, or they have a start, and they'll tell you that they made $5,000. And it's like, no, you made $100.
Oh,
And you set us up for liability, because now we have to collect the remaining $4,900.
Yeah.
And we paid you on top of it.
right.
That's just a running kind of thought challenge for some people to kind of switch their heads around with it, where I'm like, why are we the bank?
Mhm.
We shouldn't be the bank.
Mhm.
There are third parties that can be the bank. So the patient should be financing through third parties, like a firm or Cherry or whatever. But then you got to build processes around that and how that works and how that looks. Because that's just a running issue with ortho, where it's like, yeah, the traditional model has been people self-finance these things through the dental office, and the office acts as the bank without charging interest and only has liability. Right. And it's just, yeah, it's rife with problems. And so I'm trying to flip that on its head a little bit.
Makes sense. Yeah, we financed all of ours through whatever the dentist provided, but like you said, we paid them, the dentist got theirs.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, that's an issue. Dental is so interesting because the providers are very well paid, and the labor cost is high. And so that's one of the major, especially with specialty like we have. So that's one of the major issues. And, balancing that has been not the easiest thing in the world, but I think we're there.
Sweet. So how do you make important business decisions?
Fast and incorrectly.
Data, intuition, advice from others,
all of
something
the
in between.
Yeah, all of the above. I mean, it's definitely not intuition, because I think that's faulty decision making. I work things around in my head a lot, and then I talk to a lot of people, and I've got a lot of business advisors and people around me in the know, including clients sometimes, and because I do business law. So I also get to see the results of very poor decision making, because that's what I do for a living.
That's true. That's so true.
Right. It's a process when it's important. But I will tell you also that most decisions you make on an annualized basis are not. Acquiring new offices is. Doing a build out was a little bit, but it was not that expensive. Right? Not so expensive that it would be cost prohibitive.
Right.
Bringing on a new attorney in the office, it's an important decision, but it's not, look, you can fire somebody, right? None of these things are permanent, right? And
right.
It's really, I think my father was a C-suite executive growing up, and always in management, and then also a business coach later on. And so it's like, some of these things by osmosis I learned, and that's exactly what he would say. There's only a couple decisions that you can make a year that are really going to impact you. And just because you decide to do something one time, one way, does not mean that is permanent. There are big things in, for example, dental. If we take over these 3 offices, one of the bigger things is going to be a switch of practice management software. That's a pretty big deal. It's like, because it causes disruption. It's going to have ramifications. People are going to complain about the new software. Someone's not going to do the training, right? All of those, the cascading series of things that you can predict are going to happen. But you have to weigh that against the prospective benefit. And that's what I do for a living on a day-to-day basis when I'm talking to clients about perceived courses of action for litigation, right? It's like, here's the risk.
Right.
Here's the reward. What are we trying to do? And so, yeah, we just methodically kind of analyze these issues and pick them apart if they're important. But for me, it's very important also not to get lost in the weeds with the silly stuff where it's not important, where it's like, why am I spending time on this decision? I don't care. The color of the paint, I don't care. It's just not important to me. So it's that, right? It's like, it's also prioritizing your decision making and knowing what really matters versus what does not matter.
True. All right. Looking back, what's one thing you wish you'd understood about the business side of running a firm earlier in the journey?
I'm really fortunate that I did this later than I think a lot of people do it. I think a lot of people do this before they're ready. My first iteration of going out on my own taught me a lot about the second time. And so there really isn't anything that I can look back on and go, I wish I knew that. Yeah. I mean, generally, the one thing that I wish I had done differently, I don't really wish I'd done differently. I kind of knew it going in. I hired someone that I had reservations about when we started because I really needed the help. And I probably should have fired him sooner than I did. But it didn't impact us. It ruined the culture for a little while where I was like, people were very annoyed with him, and so was I. And I knew that was going to be an issue. Instead of listening to my gut about the personality defect, I kind of was like, well, I think I can ignore it. That's always my fatal flaw, though. It's the same with clients, right? It happens to me probably once every other couple of years where I'm like, they seem crazy, but I've got a degree in psychology. I think I can handle it. And it's like, no, they're crazy. Why am I handling this?
Yes. Yeah, this one won't be so bad. No, it's always bad.
Yep.
All right, last question. What would it take for you to feel fully confident about your firm's financial future and growth potential?
I mean, I'm already confident about my firm's growth potential and financial future. It would be nice. There are two things going on with my particular firm and subset of firm and area, which is that Arizona is a legal desert, and we have Phoenix, we have like a very low, I think we're 49th out of 50th with the amount of attorneys per capita. Yeah. So we all know each other. So we really all know each other. It also means that the talent pool is not there. And it also means that it's hard to find good people, and it's hard to find people that want to be in a small firm setting, and people are stuck where they want to be. And that's a struggle. AI is interesting and has changed some of the ability to do things on a quicker basis. It's like having a terrible associate and you have to check the work, but it gets you started. You're not you're not starting from 0, you're starting from 10. And so it can be a benefit from that standpoint, and that's helpful. I don't think that it's going to replace lawyers, and it's certainly not going to replace persuasion. But yeah, I mean, so it's hard to find people that are as motivated and as committed as I am. And so that's just a running challenge. I don't really financially, it's kind of an odd question because it's not what drives me. Money's a byproduct of what I do. I like winning. I like the autonomy. I like the thought. I like people. I like helping people. I like all the strategy of it. I like all those things. That's the driver. And so I want people like that around me that see that world the same way, and all the money will flow from that. And it does typically. So, if you do the right thing, you can never go wrong.
It's very true. Well, that's the end of my questions. So thank you again.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Legal and Lucrative. A big thank you to our guest for such an honest and insightful conversation. For free tools and resources to help improve cash flow and profitability, head over to www.cfoaccountingservices.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We'll see you next time.